This is Between the Lines podcast, where we discuss everything contemporary Christian fiction. Hang out with me, Jennifer Sienes, as authors share their writing journeys, the inspiration for their novels, and give y'all a behind-the-scenes view of a writer's life. Believe it or not, it's not as easy as you might think. Hi, this is Jennifer Sienes, and I am here with best-selling Christian and inspirational author Heidi Gray McGill. I am so excited to talk to you, Heidi, and I just want to introduce you to everybody, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me on Between the Lines. I genuinely appreciate your time and hosting me this evening. A little bit about myself. I have been writing for about 2 years now. November of 2020, during COVID, is when I started, and I am loving every minute of this new ministry.
You call it a ministry. Maybe you should explain what you mean by that, because I think a lot of people might be confused by that. I understand it, but some people might not.
Absolutely. So as a ministry, I see what I write as being purposeful. I'm not just writing a story, a feel-good story that someone can sit down and enjoy. When you read my stories, you are taken to a place where you are self-evaluating, what would God have for me? And so it becomes more than just, oh, that was a great book. It becomes, oh my goodness, God really spoke to me in a specific way. And so it's being a ministry is reaching out to individuals to help meet their needs.
Awesome. I can understand that. I feel like I write the same way. So we chatted a little bit. I just so the listeners know that it was only, so this is going to broadcast probably a month from when we're now speaking. But just last week, I had Heidi on my blog as a feature author interview. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over myself today. And I learned a little bit about you, and it was really interesting to see how you write, the things you write about, and the categories of writing. So we're talking about one of your books specifically today, but you have a lot of books. Why don't you tell us about, aside from the one we're going to talk about, Dial P for Perfect, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the other books that you've written?
I would love to do that. So when I first started, they say when you begin to write your first book, write what you know. And as an avid reader of historical fiction, that's really what I knew. So I chose a time frame that in history that was more simplistic. It was before the Civil War. It was easy to get out west with wagon trains. The train had just been established going west. And so that's why I started in that genre. That first book, Desire of My Heart, takes an orphan child to Missouri and helps her understand that God has more for us than we think we know. And so through all of her trials and tragedies and the things that she goes through, she learns to see God in the small details. And while she's there, she meets an Arapaho Indian woman, and that's book 2. It is Singing Bird's story and takes us a few years later. And we read about how God reached out to Singing Bird and helped change her heart. So again, both of these stories have a very strong spiritual element without being preachy. In book 3, Matters of the Heart, that's probably my favorite. It is a true romance. The first 2 have a romance element, but they are not true romance. The third book does, and Matters of the Heart is special to me. I was the director of an English as a second language program, and I listened to the stories of those immigrants who struggled. No matter what their situation, they struggled to be loved and accepted and to make their place in America. They were not just migrant workers. I had people with PhDs and master's degrees, a doctor, a lawyer. They just wanted to have a better life for them and for their children. And so I based my characters, Hans, who is from Finland, and Katie, who is from Ireland, I based them on a conglomeration of my ESL students. And so that book has a very special place in my heart. And in that book, we take someone from just not realizing how much they need God to not being able to live without God. And so that was a fun story for me to write. So then I was asked to write my debut novel for contemporary through the You Are on the Air series. And that was my Dial E for Endearment. And again, I chose something I know. So, one of the things that most individuals do not know about me is that I am legally blind. I only have 5% of my peripheral vision left. So, when I am looking at you in a traditional, normal conversation and I'm looking at your eyes, I can't see your mouth. And so I miss little cues. And so I have many friends who walk alongside me and are my seeing eye people, and they are such a blessing to me. But in Dial E for Endearment, I took my story and I made it into a fictional character, and her name is Everly. And although she goes through things that I did not, such as a very difficult relationship with her mother, this book talks about the fact that we want to be seen for who we are on the inside, not what shows on the outside. And that brings me then to my second story, and that was Dial P for Perfect. And that's a curvy girl romantic comedy. It's hysterical. It truly was
Oh,
probably, I probably had more fun writing that book than I have anything else I've ever done. And that book talks about that we need to love ourselves for who we are on the inside and how God created us to be. He made us in his image. And who are we to question, no matter what our circumstances may make us feel like?
absolutely. So you've written in 2 years, 5 books.
I have three full, the two novellas for the You Are on the Air project, and then a novella for um, any individual who signs up for my newsletter gets to see firsthand, no one else can purchase it, how the story began in Desire of My Heart. It takes you from Edgefield, South Carolina to where the story Desire of My Heart begins.
Oh, amazing. So I will put in the show notes where you can get on Heidi's website and sign up for her newsletter and her. Do you do blogs too, Heidi?
I do. Every once in a while, I do. There's just something that's just so much on my heart. I just need to get it off. And that is the most wonderful way to do that, is just to be able
Right.
to share that. Whether anyone else reads it or not, I know I've been obedient.
Absolutely. So I'll put all those in the show notes. So
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about goodness. So you writing that much, because I'm a writer as well, and I don't think I could put out that many books. And you've got grandchildren and you've got a life. Tell me what is your writing day like?
Sure. I am probably unique in that I am not creative in the morning. Most of my author friends get up and they use their morning time to really get their creative juices flowing. I'm a slow goer in the morning. So after my devotions and when I have gotten my mind set right, I spend my morning doing administrative things. All of those things that are in the back of my mind that if I'm in the middle of writing and I think, "Ooh, I was supposed to do a Facebook post," or, "Oh, I was supposed to do XYZ," those things I take care of first. I knock them off my plate so I have nothing that is taking me away. In my afternoons is when I'm semi creative. I might write a blog. I might, pardon me, I might do um, an interview, something that is that takes a little creativity, but not a ton. Maybe creating a visual Facebook post or Instagram post. It's in my evening hours that I find my juices flow, and I average probably about 1,500 words a day. I've had as many as I think 3,800. That was an unusual day. And I've had as low as 23. They just would not flow. And so every day is different, but I do try to write every single day. I have a calendar that I keep that I break out from morning, afternoon, and evening, and I chart what I do. And if I have nothing in that slot for words and I can't say what I've done, that means I've probably not used my time wisely. And that helps keep me on track. Rather than looking at my entire day as a whole, I break it out in those three types of
Wow.
segments.
And when do you find time to sleep?
I'm a late nighter, so 11 o'clock is usually an early bedtime for me.
Wow. See, I'm like in bed by 9 and up at 4:30. I could not.
Yeah,
I can't function after 6 o'clock in the evening.
I didn't even know 4:30 happened twice a day. So
It does. Yeah, it does. And fortunately, I get all my administrative stuff done as quickly as possible and I jump into writing. But well, gosh, by the time I'm done with dinner, I'm done. So,
yeah.
so tell us a little bit now. Dial P for Perfect is a curvy girl. I want to read this. Do you mind if I read your
Oh, please
synopsis?
do.
You could read it if you'd like.
I don't have it in front of me,
Okay,
so
I'm going to
please
read this
do.
because I love this, and it makes me really. I'm going to grab this book and I'm going to read it because, in fact, I think I want to read everything of yours. A number one best-selling author. I could
Oh,
just dream of that. So I'm
thank
sure
you.
your work is beautiful. So here's a synopsis for Dial P for Perfect. It is a curvy girl novella in the You Are on the Air series. It says being a curvy girl can be a curse unless you find someone who values the person you are underneath. Snarky is one way to describe Ginger's response to life, love, and loss, as in weight loss. She needs to whip up a little creativity, self forgiveness, and reality. Reggie is 1 cup nerd, 2 cups out of style, and a dollop of comfortable. Add in a dash of corny, and you've got a heap of fun, even though Ginger can't count their time together as dates. Stir in her best friend Scott, whom Ginger's liked since university, and you have all the makings of a recipe for confusion and potential heartbreak. Enjoy some belly laughs with Ginger as she navigates dating life. Walk beside her, figuratively, since that's too much like exercise, as she determines her path in life. Will she accept herself as she is, or will changing to achieve perceived perfection challenge Ginger to dig deep into how God sees her? The genre is sweet, clean Christian romantic comedy and appropriate for all ages, teen and up. So, are any of your characters, when you're writing your books, like you? When I first started writing, it was cathartic. I did women's fiction
Yeah.
and it was a lot of hard stuff I was going through, and I turned those into story and wanted to show God's grace and hope in the hardest of circumstances. So there was a little bit of my life in each of those books. And now I'm doing Southern fiction, not so much. Now it's just a lot more, it's still hard stuff, but it's not me as much. Is there some part of you in your books?
That's a great question. So I don't know exactly how to answer that, except that when my sister Devetta, who is my developmental editor, when she read the book, she called me and she said, "Oh my goodness, you're not a funny person in person. You're hysterical on paper." So
Really?
it was a different side of me that she had not seen.
Mm,
I do think that I do put myself in many of the characters, but I would not say I've ever written truly me. And
right.
I'm not even sure I would know how.
I would think if I wrote a character like me, it would be pretty dull.
Yes, that's exactly what I think about me.
Isn't that why we write? Because we can create characters that have maybe more spunk than we do, or
Right, right.
more sense of humor than we have. So, so what else about your writing would you like to share about your books? I mean, for you to write that many books, you must be drawing inspiration from the Lord, I'm assuming.
All right. So, Jennifer, I didn't even know I could write, honestly. When my ESL program closed, it had been my platform to share Jesus Christ. And I said to the Lord, what in the world am I going to do? I need something that I can use to share Christ. I had been a beta reader for years, and at one point I had gotten a manuscript, and I thought, how hard could it be if I think I could do this? And so I drafted something out. It was horrible. It truly was horrible, but it was a great learning experience. And so for anyone who is an aspiring author, truth is just get some words on paper. Just write. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is, just write. Because what I have learned is I most certainly did not know it all. When I was ready to publish my first book, about March of 2020, I gave it to my 3 sisters. We were in a car together for a family vacation, and they said, This is a great story, but we love you enough to not let you publish it yet.
Oh,
That was the biggest gift they could have ever given me. They gave me encouragement and hope, but they gave me reality. And I think we all need to surround ourselves with people like that, people who love us enough to tell us truth. If you just get 5-star reviews, but your book's really a 3, that's not an honest
yeah.
indicator of what you're doing. It's just kindness from somebody's heart. But in the truth, I really want to know what's going on. So I did correct that book for as much as I knew as an author. When I published it, I was quite surprised that people did enjoy it. And there were people out there who did not care that I had made mistakes, that I was writing from way too many points of view, that I had broken so many rules of writing that you're not supposed to do. They did not care because the story itself was compelling to them. But there were 3 individuals who took the time to write a 3-star review with these words. This is a great story, but, and that but was probably the catalyst that has moved me to another level of writing. Those 3 individuals were kind, compassionate, and honest, and they shared with me 4 areas where I was struggling in my writing. And so I went back and I took, after I had already published books 1 and 2, I went back and I took a season. I took 6 months that I had not planned for, and I 100% completely rewrote those books. It was torturous. It was an 8 hour plus a day job. I treated my work as if I were going into the office. My husband was a dream and allowed that. I my poor house suffered terribly, but I learned. I devoured every writing craft book I could get my hands on, and I fixed my errors to the place where it is better. It's still not 100%. I'm never going to, with those books, they will never reach that USA Today bestseller. There's just still too many small things that a truly seasoned writer will grasp and catch that there are errors, but it's still a storyline that is captivating. And because there are so many different characters and points of view, there is something for everyone, no matter what season of life you are in, no matter what trials you are going through, no matter where you are in your walk with God, there is someone that you can identify with. And so having the ability to now immediately see, okay, now I've learned from my errors. I was able to quickly then write that 3rd book. It just flowed. And I was really thankful. And I think part of it is consistently doing what you know you need to do.
It's mind-boggling to me sitting here as another author and thinking about we're talking about less than 3 years ago when you started all this. And in that time, you took 6 months off to rewrite, and you still have produced as much as you have. It's mind-boggling. So you're a number 1 selling author. And how have you gotten people to be drawn to whether your books are good or not? You can have brilliant writing out there, but unless somebody finds it, it's not going to sell.
Jennifer, that's actually a great Christian question, and I'm truly giving all the credit to the Lord on that one. I do not know exactly how that has happened. I do know that I have some people who have come alongside me to make that possible. So let me just give you an example of the Dial P for Perfect. I knew I needed to write this book. Was on a deadline, a very short deadline. I had not planned to write this book, and the group asked me, "Can you fill in this slot?" So I called a girlfriend that I went to Mount Vernon Nazarene College with, where we graduated, and I said, "Can you help me? Will you make this your ministry to help me get this book out?" And she was all over it. She served, her name is Stephanie. She served as my coordinator for everything that we did. She helped me. I stayed in her home, and then we stayed in a family friend's home. She was my chauffeur. She was my seeing eye person. She took notes. So when I was talking to an individual and asking questions, interviewing, she was taking all of my notes for me.
Oh,
And then she did something even bigger than that. she guarded my time. And so here I am in Mount Vernon. I have 1 week to really get all of this information that I need to write this book because this is where the story is set. And I haven't been back for 30 years. So I have to get this done. And she guarded my time. And I knocked out at least a quarter, maybe a third of that book. I forget what my word count was when I was done before I even landed back in my hometown.
Goodness.
And that was a huge blessing. The other reason I think that it's a little easier to write is in that one, I felt like I was just telling a story. I was like talking to my best friend. It was just an easy, I didn't overthink what was happening because it was so close to my heart. I'm a curvy girl too. I struggle with my weight. Um, and I always have. But this book just allowed me to the freedom to just enjoy and say, you know what, it's okay because I'm going to accept my way myself, God's the way God has made me. So then the question that you asked me was, how did I get it out there? I did a couple different things. One is because I we live in an electronic world. We are faceless book and Insta gorgeous are the two words I
Mm,
use all the time. Um, I made connections with readers in Facebook groups. I have so many friends that I have never met face to face, and I may never on this side of glory. It's just a tremendous blessing to have these people who have read my book and they just have come alongside me and supported me. So they helped with promotion in one way. Another thing that I did was because Dial P for Perfect is in a multi-author project, what that does is each one of the 15 authors is bringing our reader base to the platform. And so then we're sharing those readers, and there's a lot of overlap, but we're sharing those readers with
right.
one another. And that was tremendously helpful. I think the third thing that I did that was probably helpful was I read the rules. I am Amazon exclusive, meaning that my books are on Kindle Unlimited. That is where I get most of my reads, not from purchases. The rules that I'm talking about are what Amazon wants you to do. They want you to fit yourself into these little tiny places that they can promote your books to the exact same type of people. So if I'm in a very large general um, Christian fiction, if that's the only category I am in, that is massive. I can't
Right.
compete with Francine Rivers. There's no way I can compete with some of those large named people. That's just not possible. But put me in teen and young adult inspirational romance, and I'm number one because I have put myself in a position where Amazon says, if that's exactly what this book is about, then we'll share it with other people who buy that type of a book. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
some of it is truly understanding the system and following the rules.
And having you have in a way you have a niche market. I mean, there is not enough out there for young adults in
Yes.
clean inspiration. There just isn't. It's
Yes.
hard to find that. So you are a very small market where you're going to
Mm-hmm.
really shine, which is what we need. So that's amazing. Well, I'm trying to think other questions I could ask you. I'm just kind of amazed. I could chat with you all day. I just, you know, we talked about some of your challenges. We talked about how you've written all these books. Are most of your books indie published, or are you with a publisher?
Well, they were indie published until this year. I signed with Celebrate Lit Publishing for a 3-year, 3-book series for the Swameli Islands. I am so excited, Jennifer. Oh my goodness, this is just going to be a tremendous amount of fun. So, the Swameli Islands are a made up island between American Samoa and Hawaii. And it's a French speaking country. They also speak Samoan there. And so my character owns the scuba shop, and my husband is an avid diver.
Oh,
He is
really?
Oh my goodness, yes. And so I dive, but nothing like he does. And so he has gotten excited about this book as well. And we are just working together to make this a wonderfully fun, visually exciting book.
Well, that is exciting. That is exciting. So I know I've heard of the Samoan Island books. I think Sandy asked if I wanted to write one when I was in the middle of three other books, and I'm like, "You're kidding, right?" She goes, "Kind of am, but if you'd be willing," I'm like, "I don't think." My husband's like, "No, you're doing too much. You just need, you have to, you
Yeah.
really do have to learn how to guard family time or other things. I could work 24/7, and
Mhm.
but that's not healthy either. It really,
Yeah, and I will say that you just hit on something important. Because I do enjoy writing in the evenings, I have to choose nights when my husband is doing something. So he is an instructor trainer for scuba diving, and so at least 2 nights a week he is gone teaching class, either in the classroom or in the pool. And then he's also a pilot, and so he's gone one night a week to do something in the air. So he's got both ends of the world going on here, Mr. Adventure Man. So you do
awesome.
have to that when my daughter called and said, Ashton's running a fever, Mom, can you watch him? You just put everything aside. And so some of it is not just guarding your time, it's making sure that you are being God honoring
Right.
with your time.
You
And whatever God needs you to do that day, that's where you need to focus your attention. And if I go 5 days and I haven't had a chance to really get words down like I should, He will honor that.
right.
I'll have another 3,800 day and we'll be good to go.
Wow, I'm still kind of amazed though. So 'cause when I write, I'm usually writing 3 to 4 days a week, and my goal is 3,000 words a day. So I'm trying to crank out a good 10,000 words a week.
Wow.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you do that with your 1,500 3 nights a week. I'm just trying to do the math, and I'm like,
No, yeah,
I don't know
I
how you
try
do it.
1,500 a day to average 1,500 a day is my goal,
Yeah,
and not Sunday. I try not to write on
right.
Sunday.
I try not to write ever on Sunday, but I'm
So
trying to learn. I'm sorry.
what kind of books are you writing?
Well, right now I'm doing Southern fiction. So
Okay.
it's contemporary Southern fiction. And I'm hoping when I get done with this series, well, I'm not hoping, my plan is, unless God changes my heart, to move into romantic suspense. But I've gone from real women's fiction in Northern California settings. Now I'm Southern fiction, more romantic, but still women's fiction-y kind of situations, and then moving into
Mhm.
romantic suspense. So um,
Exciting.
being in the South has really inspired me. I feel like I've always should have been here. And so we've been here
Mm,
4 years now, and it has inspired my writing in ways I never thought possible. And it's
mhm.
fun to hang out with the church folks. The little old ladies in our church buy my books more than anybody.
Yes.
It's not what my target audience was, but I had I had a couple of them. The book that just came out in April called Night Songs. One of the ladies in my church tapped me on the shoulder right before service started at church, and she says, "Jennifer, if Charlie ends up with Nikki, I am never going to speak to you again." And then another one of the gals was like, I find myself praying for them. I'm just praying. And she goes, and then I realized they're just people. What's wrong with me? But they're so adorable. So it's been fun to
Yes.
have that
My
connection.
my girlfriends that have my phone number texted me at all hours when one of my characters died. They were not happy with
Mm-mm,
me.
mm-mm. I got an earful from one of my sisters too with one of my books when I did something she didn't like. So
Yeah.
people do buy into your characters, so it's been
Yes.
fun. But I just I'm excited to dig into some, and I love that your stuff is on Kindle Unlimited. Everything I have is also on Kindle Unlimited, and I think in the long run, I think you do way better on Kindle Unlimited than you do selling books. So
Absolutely.
do any of your books, or any of your books, an audiobook?
No, but I am pursuing that. So I believe I've chosen who I want to narrate my books. It is trying to decide if, from the marketing perspective, can I add one more thing to my plate?
Right.
I think the books are marketable in an audio format, but I just don't know if I can manage that. And so trying to figure that out it's a pretty big pretty big deal.
Yeah, yeah. One of mine just came out in audiobook. This is the first one I've had, and it's funny because we got our copy, and this is women's books, and my husband's like, "Put the book on every time we're in the car. Put the book in." It's like you just read. I don't care. I want to hear it again. So it's
Oh,
been kind
that's
of
really
fun.
thoughtful.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty fun. But yeah, that is another avenue. But with your marketing, if you're doing the book, you've already been doing it. It's just basically recapturing that, bringing it back out again. So
Yeah,
I just have a lot of help with that. So I don't know how I would do it otherwise.
yeah.
But yeah. Well, Heidi, this has been such a thrill for me to meet you face to face, actually, and to
Yes.
be able to talk about some of your books. You have anything else you'd like to leave us with? Is there any last thoughts you have?
Oh my goodness. I think I do want to encourage people tonight or on this podcast because whether you are an individual who is wanting to write or just an avid reader, there is a purpose of why you do what you do. So let me go to the reader. As a reader, I want to choose something that will sometimes take me away. I want a Calgon moment. I want to be just so engrossed in the story that I forget that these people aren't real, like you were talking about with the ladies
Right.
at church. But there are other times that I want growth, but I don't want it to be a nonfiction book. And there are very few of those strong writers out there who have such a tremendous storyline that you just end up feeling like, wow, this has made a difference in how I will pray or how I will view other people or how I will view myself. The other thing is if you are a writer or an aspiring writer, just do it. If I had gone into this, Jennifer, saying, I want to make money, I would have quit a long time ago. You totally understand that.
I do.
This is not a money-making business. In fact, this is a very, very difficult business. Are very few other places where you receive strong negative written comments about something you created for the entire world to see.
Right.
It can be devastating if your heart and your mind is not centered correctly. When I started writing, I had one purpose, and that was be obedient. When God allowed me to find a new platform to share who he is in a very specific way, I had to run with it. And whether or not I did it perfectly, I did it to the best of what I knew at that time, and I could hold my head up high. And as long as I am staying focused on that goal, then I can slough off the naysayers and the
Right.
negatives, and I can do it because of my purpose. If my purpose had been to make money, I would have been discouraged.
And you wouldn't,
That is
unless you're writing something. What is it? Unless you're I don't want to be rude, but unless you're writing stuff that really,
to market.
it's the market, it's the world, it's not
Mhm.
what is put on our hearts to write.
Right,
It's
right.
50 Shades of Gray kind of books that sell
Exactly.
well, but have no redeeming qualities to it.
Thank you. So well said. And if you can take your work and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if anybody else reads this. I was obedient.
Right.
And and I think that's what allows me to say, I'm going to get up and do this again tomorrow. What can I write? What words can I say today that might encourage someone, that might show the hope that I have in Jesus Christ? What can I do to make a character so compelling that someone believes that they are true and real and tangible, or they see themselves in that character? And that is the biggest deal because then they will walk the path that I take them through to help
Exactly.
them see who Christ truly is. And so, whether or not you are a gifted writer, I do not have a background in writing. In fact, I talked to somebody at the college where I went to university the other day and said if my professor had known that I was going to write, he probably would have laughed, you know. And there's just I was not a strong writer, and there are so many materials and things out there to help you get
Right.
stronger. And you just need to do it. Don't sit on your book for 10 years.
No, it's, that's powerful. And I think one of the conferences I went to, one of the speakers was Alan Arnold, and he got up
Mm,
there and he said, if God told you this book that you've been working on for 2 years or 10 years or 1 year, however long, if he told you to put it in the drawer that nobody would ever see it the light of day, could you do it? And
mm,
I was at that point where I was absolutely whatever you want. But I started writing when I was 12. And
mm.
I had it in my mind I was going to be the next Danielle Steele, or I'm going to
Of
be
course.
Nora Roberts, and and then God did a work in me, in my life, put me through seasons that are, unbelievable seasons to change my heart to be able to write what I write. And you were already there. So I had a 10-year journey when I first
Mm.
actually started writing professionally. I had a 10-year journey to get where I am today. Yours was like a 2-year journey. So you
Yes.
were in the right place at the right time, in
Yes.
your heart, in your mind, and with the Lord before you ever started. I
Yes.
used to have a pastor that would say you could either live and learn or learn and live. It's much
Oh,
easier if you learn first, and then the living isn't quite so hard. But if
yeah.
you're living your life the way you want to, you got some hard knocks to get through before you're going to be ready for God to use you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this has been such a pleasure, Heidi. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I hope we get to do this again sometime soon. It's just been a real joy and to actually meet you in person. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
It's been my pleasure and my honor. Thank you. I'm so thankful that you are doing this and that you are being obedient to God and helping other authors and individuals share what they have to say. Because, like you said earlier, it's very difficult to figure out ways to help people know your heart of who you are and what you're trying to do. It's not just words on paper, it's not just a feel good story. There's a reason why I write, and I want others to know that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you and God bless.